There is a house where the dusk never ends, where time folds like linen soaked in blood, and every scream echoes backward, where every guest has died once and will again. Some call it Duskfall, others call it the end. But the house knows the truth. It is not a place, it is a hunger, a ritual, a mirror made of knives. You were not invited, you were summoned, and one must bleed. Chapter 1, The Invitation. It began with a letter, no return address, no postage mark, just a black envelope pressed beneath Mercy Thorne's apartment door, one cold, moonless morning. The wax seal looked like it had been bled instead of stamped, deep crimson, bearing a symbol she didn't recognize, a key inside an open eye. She didn't know then that 7 others had received the same. The mountain road wound like a serpent through layers of fog and dying trees. 8 separate vehicles climbed it, each summoned, each unaware of the others. The sky above was swollen with ash-colored clouds, and the air was heavy with something more than mist, something old, something watching. The manor came into view like a cathedral half swallowed by time. Gothic arches rose from the mountain's spine, windows flickering with candlelight that had no source. Vines curled like fingers up the stone walls, and the great iron doors bore no handle. The first to arrive was Juno Vale. She stepped out of her matte black SUV wearing a combat jacket, torn jeans, and scuffed boots that spoke of cities in blood. She was tall, sharp-eyed, and carried herself like a woman used to violence. Her fingers twitched toward the knife tucked inside her boot as the wind howled down the path. She stared up at the manor and muttered, "This place smells like a setup." A second car pulled in. Cassian Vire emerged next, immaculate in a tailored trench coat, gloves of deep wine leather, and a smirk that looked surgically attached. He lit a cigarette, watching Juno like he was studying a predator in a cage. "Quite the charming little death trap," he said, voice smooth as silk over glass. "Touch me and you lose a hand," Juno replied. He smiled wider. "Oh, good. You're fun." One by one, the others arrived, Rook Marin, silent and distant, hood drawn over haunted eyes. He didn't speak, but his gaze darted between shadows like he expected something to crawl out of them. Leora Evensong came next, calm, composed, older than the others. She moved like a therapist in a war zone, used to being the one who listens and watches. Jet Harrow rolled in on a rusted motorcycle, smelling like smoke and laughter. He had devil's eyes and a grin too reckless to be fake. Astrid Graves stood outside her cab for too long, just staring at the manor like it was breathing. When she finally stepped forward, her expression didn't change. And finally, Orrin Blackfield. Wire-rimmed glasses, long coat frayed at the sleeves. He carried a thick, leather-bound journal already half-filled with notes. He was muttering to himself when the doors opened. The man who stood there could not be called old, but he wasn't young either. Caretaker, dressed in gray that looked stitched from fog. His face was unnervingly smooth, handsome, yes, but wrong, his eyes too still. His lips never quite moved when he spoke. "Welcome to Duskfall," he said. His voice did not echo. It landed like a coin dropped in water. "You are not here by mistake. You are here because something in you already died." He stepped aside. The doors opened inward without a sound. A silver tray was held between his gloved hands. On it, 8 envelopes, black as midnight, each bearing that same crimson seal, one for each of you. "Do not open them until the first scream." Jet chuckled. "That's ominous as fuck." Mercy hadn't said a word since her arrival. Now she looked at her envelope, at the way it pulsed faintly in the light. Something inside her shifted, not fear, recognition. The foyer of Duskfall was colder than the outside air. The floor was marble cracked in spiderweb patterns, and the chandelier overhead was made of glass teeth. Wind whistled through the walls like the house was whispering, secrets too old for words. Cassian traced a finger along the wall, murmuring, rotting in all the right places. Juno ignored him. She bent low to inspect footprints in the dust. Someone's been here recently. More than one someone. Oren scribbled rapidly. Geometric resonance, he muttered. This place is built to hold something. Or trap it. Mercy drifted toward a hallway lined with portraits whose faces had all been scratched out. The caretaker reappeared as if conjured. Your rooms await. The manor has chosen them for you. It knows what you need. It always does. He didn't blink, not once. And remember, he vanished into the dark. One must bleed. Chapter 2. The house breathes. The doors closed behind them without sound, as if the manor itself exhaled a sigh of satisfaction. The guests stood in the foyer half frozen by the silence that followed. No welcome tour, no explanations, just the air, thick, cold, and tasting faintly of copper. The walls were hung with velvet too old to still be soft. The chandelier above them shuddered once, though there was no breeze. The fireplace to their left flared on its own. This place knows we're here, Rook muttered. Cassian adjusted his gloves and wandered to the edge of the room. He touched the portrait of a faceless man in funeral black and leaned close. You ever wonder, he asked no one in particular, if places can want? Juno snorted. This place hungers. The caretaker returned, gliding more than walking. He did not smile. Your rooms await. He moved through a corridor that hadn't been there before. The house shifted behind him like liquid. Each guest followed, hesitant, silent. The hallway pulsed. Their rooms were already open. Mercy entered hers first. It smelled like burnt wood and forgotten hymns. Her eyes landed on the crucifix above the bed, nailed upside down. A child's drawing was pinned beside it, a red crayon church on fire. Her name, written in the handwriting of a girl who hadn't existed in years, was scrawled at the bottom. She didn't speak, just stared. Jet's room had the same exact bedspread from the night his best friend overdosed in his arms. The same lighter sat on the dresser. He picked it up, lit it, and closed his eyes. Leora's was worse. Every jar on the shelves, hundreds of them, was labeled with the names of patients from the psychiatric ward she had once tried to burn down. Names only she should know. The scent of antiseptic and rot hung in the air. Oren's walls were covered in moving script, his own handwriting, looping endlessly. They died before they arrived. They died before they arrived. Astrid's bed was made for two. The mirror reflected her face twice. Juno found weapons tucked beneath her mattress, hers, from missions she never spoke of. Stained. Cassian's room was covered in mirrors, but none reflected him. Only Mercy slept that night, and even that wasn't restful. She dreamed of fire, of a voice behind the flames whispering, "You remember, don't you?" She woke before the scream, but only barely. It came at 3:03 a.m., a man's voice, guttural, torn apart. The manor listened, the halls shifted, doors slammed, lights pulsed. The guests staggered into the corridor, drawn by instinct and dread. They found him in the ballroom, a man they didn't recognize, strung up with piano wire, chest cavity pried open like a split fruit, his expression frozen in a rictus of terror. His envelope lay at his feet, sealed. Mercy looked down at her own letter. Her fingers moved before she could stop them. The wax snapped. Inside, you have seen death. Now find what lives inside you, survive the dusk, or become its next meal. She read it again and again. Jet leaned close. Still think this is a retreat? Mercy didn't answer, but her hands curled into fists, and the manor smiled. Chapter 3. The Mirror of Wounds. Mercy didn't remember walking to the chapel. One moment she was in her room, staring at the envelope, trying to feel anything beyond the dread curling inside her chest. The next, she stood at the threshold of the chapel door, its old iron hinges split with rust and something darker. The air inside pulsed. Stained glass windows wept down light like blood through oil. The altar was draped in fabric that looked more like skin than silk, and in the center of the room, standing like a judge, was the mirror. It was taller than a man. The frame carved from bone-white wood twisted into snarling faces, and the surface of the glass wasn't reflective. It was liquid. She stepped closer. The chapel groaned. At first, she saw only static, like TV snow. Then the fog inside the mirror parted and revealed fire. A woman knelt in the center, burning, skin blistering, still praying, still screaming. Mercy's voice broke. No, the woman turned. It was her mother. She reached forward as if to touch the glass, and instead her hand sank into it. The pain was instant, blinding. Her vision exploded with white and then darkness. She was somewhere else, in her childhood bedroom. But the walls were pulsing, breathing. Blood ran up instead of down. She heard footsteps, her own, echoing toward a decision she never got to make. A voice whispered inside her ear. "Break the glass, bury the past, bleed for your gift," Mercy screamed. She snapped back into the chapel, fell to her knees. Her hand was still buried in the mirror, now cracked around her wrist. Blood poured from the wound, running into the carvings like the frame was drinking it. Then the mirror shattered, not outward, inward, like the whole thing collapsed into itself. Mercy fell backward, panting. Her hand burned, but something else had awakened. Her vision swam, and through it she saw things she shouldn't have. Footsteps glowing faintly on the floor. Symbols carved into the ceiling, invisible to the others. A door hidden in the wall that hadn't been there before. Blood sight. Her power. The cost. Her peace. Her sleep. The memory of her mother's last breath, now permanently etched behind her eyes. And far below, deep in the guts of the house, something stirred. Because now, it could smell her. Chapter 4. The Bloodroot Pact. Jet Harrow didn't know what drew him toward the western wing of the manor. He just followed the smell. Not rot, not decay. Something richer. Wet soil and copper. Something like blood. He walked past doors that vanished when he blinked, past a painting of a woman with too many eyes. The hall twisted until he found a door he was sure hadn't been there yesterday. The scent was stronger here, earthy, pulsing. He opened the door. The room was round, circular like a womb. Roots clawed through the ceiling and floor, writhing as if in slow motion. In the center stood a glass display case. Inside it, a root, thick, knotted, veins pulsing like it had a heartbeat. A card rested beneath it, bloodroot pendant, strength, speed, hunger, break the glass, wear it, bleed. He didn't think, he didn't hesitate. Glass exploded as his fist struck it. The root moved before he touched it, wrapped around his wrist like a serpent that had been waiting. It sank in beneath his skin. Pain flared. It felt like his veins were on fire. He dropped to his knees, gasping, sweat pouring from his skin. His muscles spasmed, and then grew. Power surged into his limbs. His pulse thundered like war drums. He laughed, loud, wild, frenzied. Then something laughed back. In the corner of the room stood a hollowed one. Its face was smooth, its body bent wrong, but it didn't move. It only watched, head cocked. Jet stood. He could fight. He wanted to fight. "Come on, freak," he growled, his voice almost unrecognizable. The hollowed one didn't move, but its mouth opened. No sound came. But in Jet's head, a whisper. "You'll be one of us soon." He staggered out of the room, body blazing with new power. The root pulsed beneath his skin. He didn't tell the others, not yet. But that night, he didn't sleep. He sat in his bed staring at the wall, smiling. And the root smiled back. Chapter 5. The First Death. It happened in the music room. Cassian found her first. Leora, beautiful, broken Leora, sprawled across the grand piano like an offering. The keys beneath her were red with blood, and every note she had once played was drowned in silence. Cassian didn't scream. He stared for a long time, and then he touched the blood with his fingers and tasted it. Iron, warm, real. The others arrived soon after. Juno cursed beneath her breath. Orin stumbled back. Astrid tilted her head and whispered, She was kind. Mercy was the last to arrive. She didn't cry. She only walked up to Leora's body and stared. The blood pooled around a sealed envelope, untouched. Her own envelope burned in her pocket. She clutched it and exhaled slowly. "I think the game just started," Brooke said. Jet, standing too still, muttered, "No, this is just the opening act." Oren moved closer. His hands shook as he pulled out his own envelope and opened it. Inside, "Your gift lies in memory. Open it or forget forever." He turned pale. It knows. It knows everything." The lights flickered. Then the world shook. The walls groaned. The doors slammed shut. The chandeliers swung like pendulums above their heads. And the house breathed in. Mercy felt it first. A twisting inside her stomach, like something had turned over, like time had folded. Leora's body jerked once, then fell completely still. Her eyes flicked open, but they didn't see. She mouthed a word. Cassian leaned in. "Loop?" And then she went cold. Outside the manor, nothing changed. But inside, something reset. They didn't know it yet, but they had already died before. Chapter 6. The Second Awakening. Leora awoke with a gasp. The light above her flickered. The air was still. Her pillow was dry, her body clean, and there was no blood, no piano, no death. She sat upright in bed. She remembered dying, but everything was untouched. Her room looked exactly as it had on the first night. The jars on the shelves gleamed under the dim light, labels undisturbed. She rose, knees trembling. Down the hall, the others were waking. Mercy was already up, standing in the hallway, hand pressed to her chest like she could feel the ticking of something unnatural. Her eyes met Leora's and widened. "You... I died," Leora whispered. "You did." Jet stepped out of his room, shirtless, bruised. The root on his arm was darker now, veined with red. "I remember it too," he said. "We watched her die." Brooke entered the hallway slowly, rubbing his temple. I woke up with a song in my head, same note over and over. Astrid was already seated at the bottom of the staircase, staring at nothing. Or maybe everything. "It looped," she said. "I knew it would." Cassian stood on the landing above them, arms crossed. "So we're trapped. Time is broken. Delightful." Oren appeared last, holding a torn page from his journal. "This wasn't here before," he said, his voice shaking. The page read, "They forget what you remember. Remember what they forget. Beware the ones who smile." Mercy inhaled sharply. "The caretaker," she said. "He's watching us reset." Jet looked at his hand. "No, he's not just watching." The house groaned. This time it wasn't breathing in, it was waking up. Chapter 7. Lust and Teeth. The second night felt different. The manor was quieter, but the silence was not peace. It was watching. Every door took a half-second too long to open. The windows reflected not their faces, but places they hadn't yet gone. The clocks ticked backwards when no one looked, and Mercy felt something crawl beneath her skin. She walked the halls with her gift flickering, blood sight. She could see footsteps from the past, blood smears and patterns only she could understand, symbols hidden behind the wallpaper, pulsing like veins. Jet found her in the greenhouse. The moonlight glinted off the cracked glass ceiling. Vines had overtaken the space. It smelled of wet earth and heat. Her hands were trembling slightly. "Still seeing ghosts?" he asked, voice low, lazy, curling around the edges of a grin. She didn't answer at first. "Then I saw my mother burn. In the mirror. It's still burning, even now." He stepped closer. "You didn't deserve that." "No," she said, "but I earned it." Jet reached out. Not to touch, just to hover, his fingers near hers, heat and tension hanging between them like fog. "You're bleeding into this place," he said, "like it's pulling your memories into the walls." She looked at him. "I think it already knows how I taste." And then, without planning it, she leaned in. Their lips met like knives scraping stone, desperate, sharp, bruising. His hands gripped her waist, hers dug into his hair. There was no safety in it, only need, only now. She pulled back first, Just an inch. I still don't trust you, she whispered. He smiled, breathless. Good. Don't. Then her eyes widened. Behind him, footsteps, faint, familiar, hers. But she hadn't walked that way. Jet turned slowly. There, in the corner of the greenhouse, a mirror bloomed on the wall like mold. In it, they saw themselves, still kissing, still locked in the moment. But the versions in the mirror didn't stop, and their eyes were black. Chapter 8. Ash in Chains. Orrin Blackfield had always believed knowledge could protect him. But in Duskfall Manor, knowledge was a blade that cut backward. He was drawn to the attic. He didn't know why. Perhaps the house whispered it into his dreams. Perhaps the journal he carried had written it for him. The door creaked open like a mouth. Dust fell in slow spirals through thin moonlight. Cobwebs clung to the rafters like forgotten veils. At the center of the room, untouched by dust, sat a lantern. Old, iron, cold. Inside, instead of flame, ash. Swirling slowly like it was breathing. Ash lantern. Reveals the hidden, burns the false. Light it only when you're ready to see. Orrin hesitated. Then he lit it. A white flame burst from the lantern, silent and hungry. The attic shifted. Writing appeared on the walls. Dozens of hands worth. Names, dates, deaths. His own name, written 5 times. All crossed out but one. Then the door behind him slammed shut. He turned. Astrid stood there. Or someone wearing her skin. Her eyes were wrong, too black, too still. You shouldn't have looked, she said. What are you? He whispered. I'm what was left when the real one tried to escape. She took a step forward. The lantern flared, revealing her true form. A second face behind her skin, stitched into place. A second shadow clinging to her spine. Orrin backed away. You're not alone in there. I never was, Astrid said. She smiled, and all the lights went out. Chapter 9. The choir sings. Rook Marin had never been afraid of silence. Silence was safety. Silence didn't lie. It simply was. But this silence, this one that curled beneath his door and whispered in his bones, was different. It was watching him. He walked the halls in the dark, refusing to light a candle. His hands stayed in his pockets. His eyes never met the portraits, not anymore, because they blinked. He passed the dining room, then the library, the piano room, and then he heard it, a hum, soft, faint, familiar, his name, sung like a lullaby. Rook, Rook, Rook. He turned, no one there. The walls began to bleed. Just faintly. Ink, not blood, words. You are not real, you never were. You were made to be devoured. He backed away, breath catching in his throat. Then a voice spoke inside him. It wasn't his. It sounded like his mother. You left me, in the tub, while I screamed. No, Rook whispered. That wasn't me. That wasn't... But the voices kept coming. The choir had found him. His ears rang. His vision doubled. He saw the hallway folding like paper. He clutched his head and collapsed. From the shadows, something began to crawl toward him, faceless, humming, dressed in the skin of someone he loved. He screamed. The house didn't answer. It only listened. Chapter 10. The Final Gate. The house was on fire, not with flame but with memory. Rooms collapsed inward. Mirrors cracked from the inside. The floor trembled beneath their feet, groaning like it wanted to breathe one final time. Cassian led the way. His coat was torn, his eyes wild, and yet he moved like a man with purpose. Behind him, Mercy, bruised and radiant, her sight glowing behind her pupils. Jet walked silently, every step leaving a scorched print on the ground. Astrid trailed them, muttering to herself in 2 voices. Only one of them sounded human. They reached the main hall. The chandelier had fallen, the walls bled symbols, and at the far end, the final gate, it pulsed like a wound, blood black and rimmed in silver bone. Words carved around it, one must bleed. The caretaker stood before it, smiling. Still, his hands folded in front of him. You have played well, he said, but the house was never testing your strength. Cassian raised an eyebrow. Then what? Your willingness. Jet stepped forward. So what now? We vote someone off the island? No, the caretaker's smile widened. One of you must choose to stay. Forever, the house must feed, or it will open again. Elsewhere, silence. Mercy looked at the others, at Astrid, at Jet. Then she stepped forward. I'll do it. Jet grabbed her arm. No, don't. She kissed him, slow, warm, final. Let me end something for once, she whispered. She stepped into the gate. The walls howled, the manor screamed, and then... light, white, blinding. When it cleared, the gate was closed. The caretaker was gone. And so was Mercy. The house groaned and fell still. Epilogue. Somewhere miles from the mountain, a letter arrives. Black envelope, red wax, the seal, a key within an open eye. Inside it, only a sentence. You are cordially invited to Duskfall Manor. Do not open your envelope until the first scream. In a quiet apartment, a young woman reads it twice. She doesn't know why her hands are shaking. She doesn't know why the lights flicker, or why her mirror suddenly shows her standing in front of a door she's never seen before. The manor remembers. It always remembers. And it is hungry again. One must bleed.